Today I have joining me Tina Tower. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you, Claire. So great to be here.
Now I'm going to ask you something really cheeky straight off the bat.
Sure.
Is Tina Tower your real name?
Yes. Yes, it is. And
Wow. This is
I
such
know.
an awesome name.
Do you know my name is one of my favorite things and it's so memorable. And when I first met my husband, I was 18. And when he introduced himself and I found out his surname, I was like, Tower. Tina. Oh, his stock went like right up. And
Yes.
yeah, I loved it and went, I will be Tina Tower forever.
That is awesome. I literally thought she must have a stage name because it's such a powerful, incredible name that I thought maybe it's not your real name. So there you go.
Yep,
There you
I got
go.
lucky with the name.
Exactly. I think when you meet someone, if you're listening and you haven't met your special someone, the last name is super important. I think I got a pretty good one here too. Wood. Like
Yeah.
it's a solid
Yeah.
name. I don't have to repeat it. Unlike my first name, which no one can ever spell. But yeah, Wood's a good one too.
Yeah.
But anyone who's listening and who doesn't know who Tina Tower is, I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So I always find it hard to put in a nutshell, which I guess, most of us do when we're high achievers trying to do things all over the shop. But so me in a nutshell, I started my first business when I was 20 as an educational toy store and tutoring place. And then it kind of grew from there. So I ended up doing that for a few years. I then had babies, which I know you have small babies. So you know how much that shakes your earth. So then had to kind of reinvent the business. We started licensing our educational programs because I'm a teacher by trade. So started doing that. We grew the licensing. It then changed into franchising. We franchised for 6 years. So in 6 years, we went from 0 to 33 locations around the country, which was big and fast and fun. And then I sold that company in 2016 and then was on an earnout, traveled the world for 9 months and now run online programs.
Awesome. So my take on it is you're sort of a business coach because you help entrepreneurs to grow their businesses. But
Yeah,
but
yeah.
one of the things that I find super inspiring about your story that you kind of just glossed over there was about the about that nearly year of traveling with
Yeah.
two children. So I'd love to, if you don't mind, dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
How exactly did that come about?
Oh, when my husband and I met and before we had kids and, you have all these moments where you have these beautiful conversations, you're like, this is the life we're going to lead. This is what we're going to stand for, all of this sort of thing. And then life kind of just snowballs and happens. So one of those dreams that we always had was to one day travel the world. We're both big travelers. We go overseas 2 or 3 times a year and we've done that the kids' whole life. So they're very used to traveling. They're very used to kind of third world countries and all different types of travel. And then when I sold my business, I was on an earnout and it was much, much tougher than what I anticipated. So I ended up at the end of that, I had adrenal fatigue, massive burnout, and was just really, I needed some time and space to recover. Really, I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I had this massive identity crisis with, when we're defined by our business, which we all try not to, but it's really hard not to. And I'd had an education business since I was 20. So my whole adult life, really, I was defined by this. And a month after I exited the business, I went to my favorite conference, which was South by Southwest in Texas, and a guy there, and you meet new people and they're like, oh, so who are you? What do you do? And I went to say what I did and then just had this breakdown and started crying in front of him, very embarrassingly, going, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I am without this business. And so I felt like I needed time and space to do that. But in the few months after I exited the company, I'd started 4 new businesses because, there's space and time to do it. And then one day, so my husband went away for 2 weeks. surfing. And while he was away, I got to spend all this beautiful time with the kids, which he's been a stay-at-home dad. I've always been a worker. I'm giving you a really long answer to this. Just
No, it's
cut me
great.
off.
Keep going.
um, so I kind of have been the working one for the last 6 years. And so for me to get that full time with the kids, and I just loved it. And I was so upset when he came back that then, so he's back now to take care of them. I guess now I better go back to work kind of thing. And I looked at them and realized I was missing it. I was missing so much of it, and it was happening so fast. They were turning into these little men, and I was going to miss it all. And so I made a really rash decision and booked us a ticket to go around the world. So that was in like May or June of last year. And then we sold our house, our cars, all our stuff, and we left at the start of August. So we did it pretty quick.
This is a massive dream of mine. I'm a big traveler. My hubby's a big traveler. At the age that my kids are at right now, it kind of sounds like hell.
And because yours are around that 1-4.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the little one's actually just turned 2, but they're not quite at the stage yet where plane travel or car travel is pleasant.
And you can have all those romantic ideas. And we would see people in like customs lines for an hour with toddlers, and they'd be throwing tantrums and they'd be hungry, or they'd poop their pants, and you'd just be like, oh my God, that looks so bad.
Yeah.
I'd say wait a few years.
That's us when we travel at the moment. And you just get there and then someone's like, I need the toilet. And you're like, no.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit more. So while you were traveling, were you working at the time? Like you said that you took the time to have some space, but were you just totally off work for that whole period of time?
I did a little bit. So part of, when I sold the business, a lot of people were asking me for coaching. And this is kind of where my current life came in, was I was being asked for coaching because people wanted to do the things that I had done. And so I was like, yeah, that'll be good to keep engaged a little bit. So I just did every Tuesday was coaching time. So I had private clients, but then a lot of people were asking me the same questions over and over again. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to put this into a group one, because there's no point in paying like the sky high business coaching private price when we're doing all the same sort of stuff. So let's drop it and we can all do that together. And so then I started it as like an online sort of mastermind, group mastermind kind of thing, without really knowing what I was doing with that, but just kind of wanting to help people and share and grow and keeping myself entertained while I went around. And then a lot of those people were saying, hey, I'm really loving how you're doing this online thing. I want to introduce that into my business. Can you help me do that? And so about 3 or 4 months into the trip, I created an online course of how to make an online course. So we started selling that, and it was a massive success. And then it kind of grew. So then by the time we got home, I hit the ground running with that new idea, because I had no idea how much I'd love it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I know I keep going back to it, but it's just such a passion area of mine, and I do want to ask you selfishly about it. But with the trip, what kind of like accommodation options were you staying in? Like, how do you possibly fund that period of time traveling with 2 kids?
Yeah. So I'll answer you honestly on that. I had no desire whatsoever to travel on a shoestring. So I had just sold my business. So I was very cashed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
so
really
you did it nicely. That's awesome.
Did it very nice. Yes. We did it very nicely. So, I mean, we stayed in all sorts. We stayed in some backpackers. We sailed around Croatia in a yacht. We stayed in castles in Italy. We stayed in all sorts of things. We stayed in glass igloos in Finland. Like it was amazing. It was amazing. But we very consciously set our budget and decided what we would do, and that we would do it totally guilt-free, and that it was, usually I don't believe in once in a lifetime opportunities. I think things can come and go, but that for us was literally, our kids were that age, that beautiful in-between age where they were 8 and 10 when we left, where they're kind of old enough to fend for themselves and to cope with the hardness that is travel, but also young enough that they wanted to hang out with us every day and go on adventures and do all of that. So we went all out. Like we did we did everything. We snowboarded, we hang glided, we quad biked, we did everything.
This is so cool. And I love that actually pursuing this passion of yours has actually led you to a whole new business model,
Yeah.
which is this online space and the coaching, and then, you know, subsequently creating the course as well. I've also seen that you've got some other exciting things going on and that you have a book that's coming out soon. I'd
I
love to hear all about that.
Yes, it's actually it's a good time to talk to me about that because I'm so excited. I got the first copy in my hands yesterday, and so I still feel a little weepy about it. Really,
Oh,
because I don't know. I mean, I know for a lot of us that write books, writing a book has been a very long time dream to do. I mean, I took Valerie Khoo runs the Australian Writers Centre, and I took her course with how to write a business book in 2006.
mhm.
So a long time ago. So it's taken me a really long time, but I never felt like I had the space to be able to do that properly. And so yeah, so I wrote the book. It's called One Life, and it's kind of a hybrid between a business book and a personal development book with how to create the life of your dreams.
Oh, it sounds so exciting. It is a massive dream of mine to write a book one
Yeah.
day, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. Anyone who wants to learn a bit more, I will be popping a link in the bio of how you can get your hands on a copy. But and this is a great thing, it's more than just about business, isn't it? Like you said, it's about creating a business and a life of your dream.
Yeah.
And I've heard you talk about that for you a part of creating is having more than just an amazing business because, you know, money and success are fantastic, but
Mm.
they in themselves don't make you happy. So I'd love to hear what you think makes people happy and some of
Yeah.
your, I guess, ideas around how people can achieve happiness and balance in their
Yeah.
lives.
I mean, I couldn't agree more with what you just said. So, like, I can use my example of Begin Bright, the company, the franchise that I built. So on the outside, it looked amazing. You know, I started from a small suburban tutoring center. We ended up with 120 staff, locations around the country, winning awards left, right, and center, media everywhere, like amazing stuff. You'd tell people what you did, and they'd be like, wow, like that's impressive. But I was miserable, totally miserable for the last year. So loved it until then. Franchising has a super serious side to it, which kind of just sucked all the joy right out of me. But I was making a lot of money, but it didn't matter at all. And so, you know, it's having to define, like, I think the most important metric for success is joy. And so it doesn't matter how much money you're earning or what you're doing. If you don't feel in alignment with the life that you want to lead, it's just not going to make you happy. And then what's the point? Like, what's the point of doing it at all? I would much rather earn less money and have the time of my life and go to bed every night with a smile on my face. And so that's like, now when I tell people what I do, one, I find it really hard to describe still. Like, well, you know, I help women package their expertise into like online packages and speaking and stuff. My grandma definitely does not understand what I do. And so, but people look at it in kind of the way of going, you know, well, is it a bit of a backyard business, or like it looks nowhere near as impressive as running a franchise company? The most ironic thing is, in the last couple of months, I've just surpassed what I earned at the top of franchising,
Mm,
which is crazy town to me. And also another reason why I love online business so much is because the output is so much less than, you know, what it is in a service-based business for what you get. But I think, to answer your question, happiness is different for everybody. And it's being able to define what's, you know, we're fed with all of this stuff in social media and everything all the time of, you know, what we should be doing as humans, as women, as mothers, as business owners, as all the things. And it's really up to each person to define, well, what's important to me? What are my values? What do I want to live by? And then to just screw the rules and make that happen.
yeah. And you've hit the nail on the head because everyone's definition is different. And I know this is a bad thing to say, but I can't, like, to me, spending 24 hours, 7 with my kids. And that's not to say, like, you know, full kudos to people who you know, who that's their passion, and they love it. But for me, like, that's why I love having my business, but I equally don't want to be working all the time and not spending time with
Mm.
my kids. So we've
Yeah.
built, you know, both my husband and I have built businesses where we work 4 days a week. So we
Yeah.
can have,
Beautiful.
you know, can have that time with the kids. But everyone's got a different definition of what happiness looks like, of what success
Yeah.
looks like. And I love that you don't sort of go, this is what it looks like. It looks like working 4 hours a week, or it looks like
Yeah.
traveling the world. You're like, it's different for everyone. What makes you
Yeah.
happy?
And
And
there's
then
different
based on
chapters too, like different
mm,
stages. I mean, I know when my babies were little, you know, it was a value of mine to breastfeed until they were 1. And so they could never leave me. And so I had to adjust my business around that. And then I kind of had the lead role with them until I always laugh because everyone goes, how lucky I am that my husband was a stay-at-home dad. But he started becoming a stay-at-home dad when they started school. So
yeah.
I go, like, he got the easy part. And so then, you know, but that was the next chapter where then I could ramp everything up. And then I could never spend 24 hours a day with them in that kind of toddler age because life's very ordinary. You know, there's only so many times you can build a block tower and knock it down and do that, which is fun to do for kind of half a day, but to do it all day every day was a lot. But spending 24 hours a day with my kids when we traveled the world, I bawled my eyes out when they went back to school because I missed them so much. But that's because it was such an exciting adventure. There was nothing mundane or ordinary
Oh,
about it.
definitely.
So there's
And they're
different chapters.
probably not pooping their pants and
Yeah.
throwing tantrums and things like that
Yeah.
at that stage.
Yeah. And they're funny. Like they're genuinely, they say things that I'm like, that's really funny and really interesting conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Crazy.
It's interesting. I saw Lorna Jane speak recently, and she said exactly the same thing. Like, you know, if you want to create the life of your dreams, do more of the things that you love. And it sounds like such a simple, like, what's so revolutionary,
Mm.
you know, in that. However, you know, when you step back and go, what things do I love? And then how much am I actually doing them in my life? And you
Yeah.
start to go, I need to make some changes here
Yeah.
because, you know, I'm working a whole lot, or I'm not getting to spend time with my kids or my partner,
Yeah.
or I'm not getting to travel, which is something for me that I really love. So you just start to make little changes in your life, right?
Yeah. And it's easier said than done. I mean, I know people get stuck in a life a lot of the time when, you know, you think that's the right thing to do and then you wake up one day and then realize actually I haven't belly laughed for a really long time, or I'm not doing it on a daily basis anymore, or whatever that kind of metric is where you realize, how did I get here? Which is the position that I got to when I decided to sell my business. So my goal was always to get to 100 centers across the country and then to go international. That's always what I was working at. And it wasn't until we were on holidays in Nicaragua or in Central America. And whenever I travel is when I get kind of the time and space to really get good perspective when I've removed myself from that everyday life. And so we were there and, you know, I was getting a couple of emails coming through, and usually I like to switch off completely when I'm away, but I was getting some urgent things coming through and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how did I get in this position where this is the shit I deal with on a daily basis? This is not fun. And I want life to be fun. And so I decided then to change. And you can make that decision to change in an instant, but there's huge ramifications and consequences for a lot of people with their lives that are going to take time. So from that moment, it took me a year to then sell the company because we had to, you know, work out a whole heap of stuff and staffing and finances and all the things. So yeah, that's really, really what I think is if someone's in a situation where they're like, actually, I've ended up in the life that isn't my dream life, and I know what that is, which one, you're lucky if you can even identify it because a lot of people have trouble even identifying what their dream life is. But if you know that, then just like you said, systematically going about making the small changes one at a time until you can get there is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, awesome. So, a bit more about the book. If someone was to get a copy of the book, what are some of, can you let us have a little sneak peek of something that they might learn through the book, whether it's about
Yeah.
creating an amazing business or an amazing life?
Yeah. So it's a lot of business stories interwoven with lessons from that. So A lot of it is centered around cultivating joy in your life, overcoming fear, not being defined by your past. Because I think a lot of the time people think, they may have an idea or they may see someone's life and go, you know what, that's the life I want. I want that for me, but that's not going to happen for me because of X, Y, or Z. So it's really figuring out how we can just throw that notion out and go, actually, you can create anything if you want to.
Yeah, incredible. And so it's a journey about mindset.
Yeah, so very much touches on a lot of mindset stuff and it goes through, business and babies. I mean, I was asked the other day, would it be good for someone if they don't have a business? And only if you're interested in it, because I do talk about business a lot, because obviously that's what I know
Mm.
and it's what I love too.
Yeah.
I love business like crazy. But it also is a message on embracing change and being able to go through those chapters, because it does change all the time. I mean, we were in Sydney when we started our business. We realized we didn't like Sydney suburban life. So we sold up there and we bought a farm just north of Byron Bay, and we lived in that for 5 years. And everyone, when I did that, lawyers, accountants, everyone was telling me, you can't run a growing franchise company from a farm in Pottsville, Tina. I was like, well, that's the life I want. I want my kids for this age to have space to run and roam and be free and all the lovely things. And I can jump on a plane. And so I did that, and we had a 200% increase in revenue the year after. So
Mm.
it's just not letting the rules of what people think you need to do to define what you have to do, because we can really, and travel gives you that as well. In when you travel, you really realize how constrained we are by a set of rules and expectations in our society, and we think that they're fact. And in every different culture, you realize how different that is, and that their fact is just as true to them, but it's like totally different for us. And then you realize we all just make it up anyway.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think that's one of my favorite things about travel is that when you get outside of your normal environment, you suddenly start to go, gosh, like, the sky's the limit, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
And you start to realize how extremely blessed we are to live in a
totally.
country like Australia. In terms of the things that we think are holding us back. And when you look at really the limitations, the practical limitations that a lot of people in different parts of the world have, then you
Mm,
realize how insignificant the
yeah,
hurdles that we think we're facing really are, right?
totally. Yeah, yeah. And
Awesome.
that's the perspective that travel gives as well. And it's why, I know a couple of people were really horrified with some of the places that we took our kids to and continue to take our kids to, because they're, really third world sort of countries. Like we were stuck in the Gobi Desert in Mongolia for a while, and went into Russia and all different African countries. And people are like, what's that going to do to the kids? And I'm like, well, our fragile souled kids need to kind of realize how privileged they are and lucky they are, and be able to keep all of that into perspective. But so do we as big people too. I mean, I do think sometimes, our problems are our own and they are real for us, but we do have to keep top of mind as Australians. Even the most down and out of us are so lucky compared to the majority of the world. Our ability for education, for healthcare, for fresh food, everything we have, this really is the greatest country on earth.
Yeah, we're extremely lucky. Okay, so let's chat about what is next for Tina.
Yeah.
Oh, kind of, and what's going on at the moment, really? Like, if someone wanted to connect with you or find out a bit more about what you're up to at the moment, and then also what's coming next, I'd love for you to share with the listeners.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, we're morphing at the moment, and this is the thing, is going, it's the first time in my life that I haven't had a stringent plan. So with franchising, I was hyper planned. So when I got into personal development really, really young, and then out of that came all of this, visions and planning and all the things. So I used to have, my 10-year vision down to 5 years, then broken into 1 year goals, then those goals broken into 90-day action plans, then broken into daily tasks, then the days broken into 15-minute increments, like crazy hyper planning, which worked for franchising. So when I was running that style of business, it really worked really well. Whereas now with this business, it's kind of like, in an online space, we don't know what's going to happen in a couple of years. And you really don't want to put a ceiling on yourself either with a plan and expectation, because you could shoot way past that. So half of our business at the moment is a digital agency. So through coaching a lot of women that were getting their expertise and their thought leadership from their service-based businesses and then putting that into an online package, they then wanted that site built. So a whole arm of our business now is getting people's online courses built, their websites built, their podcast, all of that sort of thing up and running, which is so much fun. And then my kind of part is to do the coaching and the book coming out. And then we've got our retreat in Palm Springs next March, which I'm so excited about that. It's my first international retreat. And I love Palm Springs. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. So really happy to go there 5 days and just immerse in the learning with other people that are trying to elevate their personal brand and their offering to the world, which will be really cool. And then it's just seeing where it goes. I'm speaking a lot, I'm doing a lot of things, and it's fun.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so good. And you forgot to mention too that you also have a podcast.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, all the things.
All the things.
Yeah, so I have Her Empire Builder is my podcast and also my online program.
Fantastic. If anyone would like to learn a little bit more about Tina, I'll be popping all of her links, including details of her book, of the retreat, and of her programs in the show notes for today, which are available at clarewood.com.au/podcast. Tina, is there anything else you'd like to share with people before we wrap up for today?
Oh, I think just whatever that dream is that you've got within you, just do it. Do it. If you've been thinking about something for long enough, you owe it to yourself to try. Don't overthink it. If you fail, do it beautifully and try again.
Oh, well, absolutely beautiful parting words. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Claire. Thank you.
See ya.